Hey guys, Sean Lentz here from Appalachian DIY, and today what we're going to be doing is talking about overhangs. Alright guys, so how we are going to actually attach these boards to here is I'm going to set these up, shoot 2 nails in from the bottom. I'm going to use ring shanks for that. Once we get them all in, I'm going to come back and then toe nail 3 nails. 2 on one side, 1 in the dead center of here. That's going to help hold this board onto here. Since it is an overhang, there is a tendency for this to want to pull, right? Our sheathing is going to help with that, but we also need to help with our nailing patterns to hold this thing on. So the ring shanks are going to hold from the inside, right, or the outside, and then our 2, we're just going to use regular common nails, 2 from this side and then 1 from over here. That's just going to help hold this board down onto the outside of this overhang. We'll do the same kind of nailing pattern on the inside, and that's kind of the way we're going to do it. I would suggest you guys do that even if you are doing a ladder, because you still have that pull from the entire overhang itself. So even though you have a ladder system, I would still toe nail this just to help hold this thing in. It'll make it all that much stronger. So that's what we're going to be doing here right now. All right, now that we have our ring shanks in the back, we're just going to set this thing up, switch to regular nails. Now you don't have to. Ring shanks hold better. We're just running low on those right now, and we need them for sheathing, or else I just run ring shanks in here because ring shanks just have so much more hold power to them. So we're just going to go ahead, toe nail these in. Like I said, 2 on this side, 1 on the other. Really cinch this thing down. Okay, to start off with, there are 2 ways that you can make an overhang. The very first one is with a single rail and rungs, which is what I used. The second type is 2 rails with rungs. It looks more like a traditional ladder. The reason I went with mine is I thought it would be cheaper and easier to do. However, that didn't turn out to be the case. I really wish that I would have used 2 rails. So you can see this is the single rail out here. We have a rung, and right here, this is our truss. So we nailed right into this thing. The problem with that is that it wasn't very stable. We clamped it on and got it into place and then nailed it into place while it was clamped in there. But it was a lot of moving around, a lot of tapping, and just kind of configuring it into place. With 2 rails on there, I think it would have been a lot more sturdy, and it would have been a whole lot easier to get that thing nailed into place. The second issue with that is we're going with soffit on here. There's really nothing to nail in between these 2-foot centers for our soffit. So that's another thing that I wish we would have done, is if we would have had that second rail on here, that would have been another 2x4 that we could have attached our soffit to. So looking back at it, it's definitely something that I wish I would have done. Yes, it would have been double the amount of 2x6s that I used. However, in hindsight, I would have had a nailer to nail in my soffit. It would have been a whole lot more structurally sound and stable and not wobbled around so much, saving me a ton of time. So that little bit of expense definitely would have paid off in the long run. So I definitely recommend the double rail or actual ladder style overhang. Now for our overhangs, we have a 10.5-inch piece with an 1.5 inch out here. That gives us a 12-inch wide overhang. That's very common. That's probably what you're going to see a lot of. Another thing that was really important was this 2x4 here that we have right at the edge of our truss. Now what this board is going to do is it's going to help us with our subfascia, because we had a issue with how much was actually onto the truss itself. We needed an additional nailer. However, this also helped us on the outside for something to set our overhang onto to get the proper height of it, of where that needed to be. So also, this was also a nailer and also a ledge for our overhang to sit on. So here you can see the 2x4 that we have running along the bottom of our truss, because as you can see right here, there's probably only an inch that we're actually getting this subfascia nailed to our truss. So that's not enough for it to hang on to. We needed something additional to nail into, and that's where this came in. It also helped us out when we were setting our overhang on there. We had something to set it on, which really helped us out too. The next thing I'll say about is our nailing pattern. For over here, we have 3 ring shanks coming in this way. We also toe nailed some regular common nails, 2 on this side, 1 on this side into here. We also did the exact same thing for the outside like we showed in that video. We did 3 on the outside, 2 on this side, 1 on this side. It's a lot of nails, but just think of it, guys. This is literally holding on by its teeth, basically, on the outside. The sheathing is also helping the structural ability of this, but it's literally hanging over. It's an overhang. There's nothing really else holding this thing up. There's no supports underneath, nothing else like that. So it's not really a structural component as far as like it's holding itself up. It's literally being held in here by nails on the face of this truss. So your nailing pattern is extremely crucial. Definitely use ring shanks throughout if you can. It's really going to help with pulling of it out. Obviously, when you get your sheathing on, it really adds a whole lot more structure to this thing, makes it pretty solid. However, going out really far with your overhangs, I don't think is a really big must. So that's why we stayed with our 12 inches. And like I said, we have a 10.5 inch out here with 1.5 inches here. That gives us a 12-inch space, which is a common size for your soffit. As far as how we put them in, we put this bottom in first, the top, and then we stopped there. We moved to the opposite side and mirrored bottom side, and then we fit that very last one in on top and just kind of wedged it down in there. That gave us the room for if we had to trim some stuff off to make it fit perfectly, we were able to do that, and it wasn't a whole lot of cumbersome because gravity was taking hold of it at that point. But so that's pretty much it, guys. They are very simple. It's quite easy. We did run 2 foot-on centers because, again, these basically are just nailers for our soffit and for our sheathing to just nail onto here. So not a huge deal. You don't need to go 16-inch on centers or anything. It's not structural in that way. You just need to be able to get this thing attached to your actual truss. So yeah, they're not complicated. Just get your nailing pattern right. Don't make them too long. I don't think there's really any advantage to that. But definitely would do it again with the double rail and not just the single. I think we just created a lot of headaches for myself by doing that, and we'll have to deal with that a little later on. One of the other things that we did is we did not put our gabled ends up first because we were rushing the weather. We wanted to let this overwinter. We weren't going to work through the winter on this thing. So we wanted to get our sheathing in to protect the building itself and the trusses that we already had up. So we needed our overhangs on to do that. We should have built the gabled end walls. That is a lot more time consuming than I really wanted to put in, and we really were rushing to get that roof in. So we did the overhangs first. However, if we did have more time, I would do them after the gabled ends because we can sheet all the way up to the outside edge of this truss, and we can then nail this right to our sheathing through our truss. That would have given us a very tight envelope as far as air gaps and anything like that. Now we're only going to be able to sheet right up against this, which we're going to have to fill that crack somehow. So stay tuned for another video because we'll probably end up having to deal with that. So we did kind of put the horse before the cart in that sense for our overhangs. However, working in with winter and wanting to get the roof up, that's what we chose to do. So definitely I would get my gabled ends up first if I had the time, and then do our overhangs after that, then sheet the roof, obviously. But now we're just gonna have to kind of deal with sheeting right up against this and filling that crack somehow. So any ideas, guys, I would definitely love to hear them in the comments below on that detail of this crack here with the sheathing on the outside gabled end up against our truss. Other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, make sure you head over to Appalachian DIY to check out more videos. Thanks again, guys, and I hope to see you next time.